I'm going to teach you how to create a complete JSON API project in Golang. We are going to build a bank, we are going to transfer money, we are going to create accounts, and everything is going to be authenticated with JSON web tokens. We're also going to use Postgres, we're going to hook that up into our handlers, and we are even going to test the complete project. We are even going to test the HTTP handlers, and after that, when everything is done, we are going to Dockerize this project so we can hand that over to our DevOps team and sip margaritas at the beach. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is actually find a good name. I think we're going to call this Go Bank because we're going to create a bank API, right? So we're going to say, like usual, we're going to do this completely from a blank page. So we're going to say mkdir Go Bank. We're going to cd in Go Bank like this. And then I'm going to use VS Code with some Vim shenanigans. But you could use any editor you like. So let's create a couple of files. The first thing I'm going to do is a make file. The make file is being used to basically bootstrap some of common tasks, right? That's what I'm always doing. That's a good practice to have. So I'm going to say build, which is going to be go build minus output, and that's going to be in the bin go bank, right? The binary, it's going to be called go bank. Then I'm going to say run, which will build first. And then we're going to say /bin go bank. And then I'm going to say test, because we're going to test our application. We're going to test our HTTP handlers if everything is working fine. And my hands are so cold. We're going to say go test minus verbose. And we're going to say everything in our project, right? And the verbose stands for more logging if you run the tests, right? So I'm gonna always do an add before these commands so they are not being printed out. The next thing we're gonna do is, can I do like this? I'm gonna make a main.go file. I'm gonna say package main, func main, which is gonna be our entry function. And we're gonna say fmt parent ln. And we're gonna say, yeah, buddy, with an exclamation mark. Yeah, so let's test this real quick. I make run, and it's telling us that we need a mod file. So we're going to make this real quick. We're going to say go mod init github.com and dm/go bank. And if you're following along, you can actually use your own GitHub handle or whatever. It's all good. Right, so now we have a mod file. Let's do make run once again. And now we say, yeah, buddy, so everything is ready to go. The first thing we're going to do is create our API, our API file, where we're going to create our API server and our handlers, right? So it's going to be package main. There is no need to make other packages, because a lot of big mistake, a lot of beginning Golang gophers are doing is to split everything out in different packages, in different folders, but that will cause circular dependencies quicker than you can imagine. So just keep everything in your main file, in your root file, and if needed, then we can split things out, right? But only if needed. We're going to say type API server, it's going to be a struct. We're going to give this a listen address, which is a string, like this. And of course, we're going to add our DB, our database, which is going to be a Postgres database in our application. We're going to add that in later on, right? But first of all, we're going to start with the basics. We're going to say func new API server, which is going to take the listen address, which is a string, and it's going to return a pointer to our API server. And we're going to say return the pointer to an API server, and the listen address is going to be the listen address, right? Oh, what's going on here? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move this mouse cursor out of the way, is our handlers, right? So we're going to do something like func as API server, and we're going to say handle account. Because we're going to handle accounts, we're going to create accounts, we're going to get accounts, we're going to delete them, and we're also going to transfer. And in Golang, it's a common practice to prefix these things with handle. It's a community, it's being appreciated by the community, right? Handle account, it's going to be an HTTP response writer like this, and it's going to take in an HTTP request, and it's going to return an error, right? And we're going to return null to satisfy the compiler. What's going on here? Handle account W. Yes, of course, we forgot the R for a request. All right, that's nice. We're going to copy this function like this, and we're going to make handle get account. I'm going to copy it again. We're going to make an handle create account. And maybe you should also do an handle. Maybe delete account or something, yeah. Like this. And also a function for transferring money. So we're going to say handle transfer. Like this, maybe. That sounds good. All right, so we are not going to use any extensive framework like Gen or Bigo or Fiber. We are going to try to do as much ourselves, because a lot of people are so used to installing so much packages that they have actually no clue how these things work under the hood. Although it's a good thing to install packages to save your time, but for most of the cases they are not needed, right? You're gonna have a bad time in production if you install a package that's not good supported, or that has a bug and you need to upgrade your whole stack. That can cause a lot of issues, I'm not gonna lie. And in the industry, especially in Golang, a lot of these, if you're going to production, that's what I'm actually want to learn you, is to write code you actually gonna write in the company you're gonna work for or in production, instead of making these tutorials with all these frameworks you actually never gonna use in your day job, right? So API server, we're gonna make a function to start our server up. So we're gonna say s API server, we're gonna say run. What's going on here? Vim key binding's not working. All right, so run. And now actually we're gonna install a package, and we're gonna install a minimalistic package, and it's gonna be go get GitHub.com Gorilla Mux, right? Because Golang has a good support for HTTP and to handle all our requests, but it's not provides us a way to get the parameters. We could do that, but then we need to make our own reg expression and all that stuff, and that's something we don't want to hassle with. So we're gonna install Mux, right? It's as old as the streets. It's basically Gorilla Mux is there from the beginning, even from the beta, I think, in Golang. So that's a very, very long time. That package is stable as yes. All right, so run. We're gonna say first of all, we're gonna say router. That's gonna be a Mux new router, and I don't think it's gonna import it. Nope. Sometimes VS Code, but that's no problem. We're gonna do it manually. We're going to say github.com Gorilla Mux like this, and it should be all fine. And then we're going to say router handle func like this, and we're going to say /account, of course, and then we're going to say s handle account like this. And of course, it's not going to work, right? We got this red compiler warning, and that's because handle func is actually taking a path and an HTTP handler here, right? And our function looks like it, but it's not the same, right? If you go to API, we can see our function we have is basically the same, but we are returning an error. So we need to convert our function into an HTTP handler. That's the first thing we need to do. So because you could leave the error, right? You could say, hey, then we just use an HTTP handler func without the error, but then we need to handle the error inside of our handler, and I don't like that. It clutters up. It's no Gucci. So we're gonna transform this function. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna make a type, and this type is gonna be an API func, right? And this API func is basically the function signature of the function we are using, right? And that's going to be a function, HTTP response writer, and a pointer to an HTTP request, and it's going to return an error. This is our function, right? This is the function signature we are using here. And then we're going to say func make HTTP handle func like this, and this is going to decorate our API func into an HTTP handler func, if that makes sense. So we're going to say it's going to take an f, which is an API func, and it's going to return an HTTP handler func like this, right? Like this. And if you see handler func, let's take a look at this, right? So you could see this is a handler func, which is basically just a response writer and a request. But our API func is basically an error, right? So we need to just make sure we can convert these two. And we're going to say, we're just going to return a function, which is going to take a response writer, HTTP response writer. It's going to take an R, which is an HTTP request. And it's going to not return anything. So we're going to say here, we're going to say if there is an error, and we say our function, right? This f is basically one of these functions here, which return an error, and we're going to catch that error here. So we're going to say if our function with the response writer and the request, and the error is not nil, right? Then we're basically going to handle the error here, okay? That's what's going to happen. Of course, we don't have any way to handle our error yet, so we're going to make that. But the first thing we need to do is find a way to write JSON, right? Because we are going to make a JSON API. So we're going to make a simple function, and that's going to be func write JSON. And we're going to take in the W, which is an HTTP response writer. Response writer. We're going to take in a status, which is going to be an integer, and we're going to take a value, which is any. And it's going to return an error, so it's nice, compatible with our function signature. So we can just return this, right? So the first thing we're going to say is W write header, the status, right? So we're going to say write the status we give it in the header, right? And then we're going to say W, I think it's header, set, we're going to say content type. I think it's like this, not quite sure. We're going to say application JSON, and then we're going to just return, very simple, JSON, new encoder, because we're going to encode it into the response writer, because that's a writer, right? I think new encoder takes, we will see later on. I will show you. And then we're going to say encode, and we're going to encode anything. And that's the V. And that's done. So if you, let's take a look at a new encoder. You see, it takes in an io.writer, right? io.writer, and luckily our response writer is an io.writer. It implements the write interface, right? Cool, so now we could, let's make an API error type real quick. We could say type API error, which is a structure, like this. And we could say, yep, there is an error, and that's going to be a string, like this. And then we could say here, we could, we cannot return because a normal handle func does not return anything. So we're going to just say write JSON. We're going to put in the response writer. We're going to put in, for now we could say a status bad request maybe. Bad request. And of course, later on, what we could do is make an assertion on the error we return from our handlers, and then we could basically switch based on the error and return the appropriate status code, right? But for now, we're just going to say bad request, and we're going to write anything. So we're going to say we could write our error like this, and then we're going to say here that the error is going to be the error we give it, but we're going to say error, so we have the string, right? So that's being done. And now, of course, we have this error still. So now we need to wrap this. Now we need to transform this function into our HTTP handler, into a common HTTP handler. And we made this function ourselves. We're going to say make HTTP handler func and wrap it in. And I think I made a little mistake. Make HTTP handle func like this. Boom. All right. So now everything is working. And then, of course, we're going to say here HTTP listen and serve, and we're going to say the listen address. We're going to serve on the address we give it, on the port we give it, and then we're going to put in the router as the handler. Listen and server. It's listen and serve rather, like this. All right, and maybe you could do a logging. You could say log println maybe, and we could say JSON API server running on port. Maybe a space here, and then say that it's going to be the listen address like this. All right. Do we need something more for now? I don't think so. Maybe we could actually try or... oh yeah, what we could do here, right? So the problem is with the mux router is that we cannot specify if it's going to be a get, a post of a put, or a delete request. So we need to basically handle that ourselves. And that's why we made this handle account. So we're going to do that real quick. We're going to say if the request method equals get, then we're going to basically return as get handle account, handle get account rather, like this. And then we're going to copy this a couple of times, and we're going to say if the method is post, we're going to say we're going to create an account, right? What's going on here? I think I put my... Yes. Little mistakes. There are no mistakes, only little happy accidents, right? Method post get, what do we need? Maybe delete, right? So we're going to say delete, and that's going to be delete account. Put we don't have for now, and then we're going to say if all of these cases, no need to use an else, you could use a switch. Hey, you are the painter of your drawing, you are the creative artist, you are the Bob Ross of your program. You can literally do whatever the fuck you want, but I'm going to use this thing. A switch is maybe even better, I don't know. It could be maybe even better. Hey, it works, right? So we're going to say error f, we're going to say methods not supported or something. Not allowed, maybe. Not allowed. Yeah, method not allowed. And then we could say something %s, and then say our method, and everything is fine. Can we actually test this? No, because we need to open up our main file, like here. What's going on here? Yes. Then we're going to say that the server is going to be a new API server, no typing at all, but it doesn't matter. And we're going to say port 3000 is the way to go. And then we're going to say server run, and delete this. And maybe we're going to, you see, sometimes VS Code. Maybe I'm too fast. I don't know. You tell me. Let me know in the comments. Go bank, going to say make run. All right, and we see JSON server is running. Let me see if I can open up a local host 3000. We say page not found. That's perfectly fine because we don't handle the slash. And we're going to say account. And then we have a white screen. So maybe we could do something better. We could make types. We could say new file, types.go. And we're going to say package main, like this. And then we're going to say type account, which is a struct. We're going to give this an ID, I guess. It should be an int. Then we're going to give this a first name, which is a string. I'm going to copy this into last name, maybe a number, a bank number, right? Which is going to be an int, or maybe an N64, and a balance maybe, right? And we're going to change this up, right? It's just for demonstration purposes. All right, so we have this account. Do we need new account? Yeah, let's make a constructor real quick. We're going to say new account, which will take in the first name and the last name, and they are both strings. You could do that in Golang. You don't need to specify. If you're all specifying strings, you can actually specify string as the last argument, so it knows the both those both arguments are being a string, those both types, right? And then we're gonna return a pointer to an account like this, and we're gonna return an account, and we're gonna say what's going on. We're gonna say that the ID is gonna be a rand int n. We're gonna say maybe so many IDs we can choose from. The first name is going to be the first name we give it. Yes. And of course, the last name is going to be the last name we give this. And then we're going to say that the number, the bank number, and that actually should be maybe a UID or something, a UUID we're going to use, but for now I'm going to make it an N64. We could do whatever we want. If you want to have something different, hey, make it as crazy as possible, right? Like I mentioned, you're Bob Ross. As long as you don't beat the devil out of your keyboard, it's all fine. So number, we're going to say again, right? We're going to make it a rand int n, and let's make it even bigger, like this. I think this is actually too big already. Oh wait, this is rand in returns. What does it return? An int actually. That's bad news. So we're going to convert this to an N64, right? And the balance, of course, that's going to be 0. So we don't need to specify this because Golang will automatically initialize all default values to their default value, which is basically 0 for an N64, right? Yes. So now we're going to go to our API back, which is actually here, but hey. Let's make a mock real quick, and we are going to use Postgres as our database. We're going to make a complete prediction grade project, but hey, we need to build this up, right? We need to build attention. We need to start from the beginning. We need to learn how to walk before we start sprinting. Handle get account. So we could do something like this, right? To give you an idea how it is. And my hair is itching, but I don't have hair, so something is wrong. Let's say we're going to say that the account is basically something like a new account, like this, and we're going to call this Anthony, maybe with a capital N, capital A, Anthony, and the last name is going to be GG, and then we're going to say something like return JSON, new decoder, and we're going to taking the response writer, and then we're going to say decode me this. Actually, we don't need to. We can, what are we doing? We could just do return write JSON, right? Return write JSON. We're going to say W, HTTP status OK, like this. And then we're going to just put in the account. Look at this. And if we run this again, clear, make, run. And we open up our thingy, and we do slash, then we see that we have a nice JSON. I'm not quite sure what it is. I think I need to install the JSON plugin for for my browser, and I will do that in the next episode. So you see we have the ID, the first name is Anthony, the last name is GG, the number is this, and the balance is 0. I'm poor, I'm broke. All right, so something we need to realize is that, for example, you see this ID is capital, and wait, let me do something else, guys, real quick. Let me open up this one. Let me open up Postman. What's going on here? My workspace, real quick. Let me open up Postman, and you see we're already doing some shenanigans on stream and all that making our own matching engine, trading engines, crypto exchanges from scratch, poker, this and that. It's crazy. We did so many stuff, and we're having a good time. So we're going to say get 3000/account, right? What's going on? We don't actually set JSON, right? You see? I think we have a little bit of an issue. Let me open up these headers real quick. Content type. You see? Content type is text plain. That's not good. So we need to fix this real quick in write JSON, right? Application JSON. How do we do this? I have no clue. I thought it was something like that, but apparently it's not, right? That's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I need to figure this out, and I have no clue. Header set. That should be good. Application JSON, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna fix this in the next episode, guys. Sometimes even myself does not know what to do, so we're not gonna lose any time. Anyway, you see what's going on here, and maybe I saw something in my thingy here. Yeah, it's okay, it's fine. So we can see that if we body this, oh yeah, this is fine if you do it to JSON. No, it isn't. body here, man, so I'm so sorry. So we can see that these first name, last name, and numbers and all these things are with capital B. And of course it can work, but I want to have these things small caps. So how can we do this? Well, we go back to our types thingy. And instead of, we need to have some JSON annotations, and I need to jump to my keyboard because I don't have this letter apparently on my 60% thingy. I don't know. I'm using a 60% keyboard and I have no clue where that thing is on that keyboard. So we're going to say JSON. And we're going to say, there's going to be ID, right? Like this. And now I need to basically delete it, paste it in. And we're going to say, this is going to be the first name, right? So this basically is some kind of a struct annotation where we actually specify that if this field, if this struct is getting serialized or encoded to JSON, how that variable name should be. We can actually completely rename this into another name. So although it's going to be first name in the struct, in a JSON representation, it could be a username or something completely different, right? But it is what it is. We're going to say here last name. This is going to be, we could actually say, for example, yeah, let's just call number. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Number, and then in this case, it's going to be the balance, like this balance, right? Balance. Yes, that should be good. So if we now run again, right? And I'm still a bit pissed about the content type, but we will fix it. So now you can see that everything is small, right? ID is small. First name starts with the F, with the small cap F, and so on. And if you really want to be fancy, you could do, for example, snake case, right? You never know. Maybe that's the name of the game in your company or for your client wants to have the API in snake case. Then you could do it like this, right? Then first name would be snake case in the JSON representation, right? But hey, we're using this, right? Cool. Let us see. What are we going to do next? So the server running is perfectly fine. Let me open up the server. That's something different, right? We need to our API, right? Do we need to have something else before we call this a day? Yes, what we could do actually in handle account, right? So we need to have a way to specify to which account. Actually, what we're going to do, we could do something like this. We have a handle account, but we also is going to have a handle account, and I think we need to do something like this syntax, and we could say ID maybe, right? And then we could say here handle get account, right? So let's try this, but I think we need to make sure. Yeah, I think that's fine. That's fine. That's going to be fine. Let's see if that works. First of all, what we're going to do in handle get account is do something. For example, ID is going to be actually vars, right? So we're going to say the vars is going to be mux vars, and we're going to give in the request. And I think we could do something like instead of returning this account, let's actually return vars, just for the sake of seeing if it's going to work. So I'm going to say make run. Where is my postman? Postman is here. So let's say get account, and let's say we're gonna give it an ID like this, and I send this, and then you could see that we have the ID, and that's fine, because right now what we could do in our code is basically this. We could say that the ID is going to be muxvar and ID like this. And then we could do here database, right? We could say db get ID and all that stuff, right? That's what we can do. So for now, what we're going to say is let's return an empty account to make this happy, and then maybe we just log here empty println, and we're going to log out the ID real quick here. Make run. And see if that is going to work. Boom. So we have an empty account, which is what we did. And then we're going to see we have the ID here, right? So it's all set up for In the next episode, where we are going to start implement our database, we're going to use Postgres. We're going to hook Postgres up with our server so we can actually use it. We're going to make actually an interface, a storage interface, so we can, for example, swap Postgres out with, I don't know, MongoDB or something. It's a very common practice that you don't hard code your storage into your handlers. So when the time comes, you need to, I don't know, maybe you're going to use something different. You can just implement a new type of storage and hook that up to your server without the need to rewrite all your handlers. That's actually amazing, and that's what I'm going to teach you. And we're also going to use JWT out and all that good stuff. And of course, in the end, we're going to Dockerize that stuff so we can hand that over to our DevOps team and sip margaritas on the beach. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing to my channel if you like this content. Jump into my Discord if you want to be a high-value engineer. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.